Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the Gotham Sports Machine. I am Mark Healey, and he is Jack Healey. Hey, Jack, how are you, buddy?
Good today. Good.
Yeah. I'm very excited about opening day is just a week away, pretty much, and you know, uh, there's a lot to talk about with the Mets, and I do want to talk about and concentrate on the Mets today, but just with tonight's WBC final. Um, Did you expect USA to be in this spot? I mean, did you expect this to be the title game, USA, Venezuela?
I mean, there's a lot of talented teams, so I wasn't expecting anyone for the final. I just kind of knew US was gonna play DR at some point, and that was gonna basically be like the game everyone wanted to watch.
Right.
And it was a great game and ended on a questionable call, but gotta protect the plate with two strikes. And that call was made all game. You knew that this guy was up and around the zone,
Right.
especially low. So.
Well, the other thing too is, look, to me it was a borderline call. I mean, it wasn't egregious. I mean, I've seen much worse strike calls. I've seen worse strike calls in World Series. You go back to the 1997 World Series with the Marlins, and Eric Gregg strike zone was ridiculous. But to me, the story of the game is not that, it's not the bad strike call to Juan Soto or the bad strike call to end the game. To me, how many chances did DR have to win that game? They had multiple. What were they, 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position?
Soto grounded out.
That
Maybe
was
his
awesome.
biggest at bat and maybe the biggest at bat of the whole game.
Well, it
Rogers
wasn't
comes in for
awesome. It
one
was
pitch.
awesome if you're rooting for USA. And I mean, look, we love Juan Soto. He's a Met, but both of
But
us
yeah,
were rooting for Team USA in that spot. And
well,
the old Met, Rogers is the one who, gets the double play ball, which was kind of cool. I enjoyed that. So you're just looking forward to tonight's game. Venezuela, I didn't expect Venezuela to get here. I know Venezuela has a good team. Did not expect Venezuela to be there. I expected it to be Japan. So I'm a little surprised that Japan didn't make it to the final. Um, and look, I'm glad it wasn't Italy. I really didn't want to root against Italy. We had fun watching that game too. So to me, this is a good final. I mean, do you like USA to win this game, or do you think
I
it's a
mean,
crapshoot?
it's if McLean can lock it down for 5 or 6 innings, I mean that's the baseball that USA's been playing. Just you score, you like hold them to 1 or 2 runs,
Right.
and then USA's been good for at least 3, 4 runs every game. So I
Yep.
like that lineup. I like McLean. I hope USA takes it.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. Uh, it's funny. With the Mets, I think both of us are in a better, well, certainly in a different headspace than we were at the end of the season as things started to fluctuate. That started with the Brandon Nimmo trade, which we both hated. Um, and then we lose Pete, we lose Edwin Diaz, we lose, Jeff McNeil to a lesser extent. Um, so, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of things to get to. The first thing I'm going to ask you is there's one bullpen spot left, Jack. Who do you think is going to get it? Is it going to be Kimbrel? Is it going to be the other lefty, Brad Hudson? Or is it going to be, the immortal, Richard Lovelady, who seems to be the most sought after, pitcher? David Stearns' favorite pitcher. I mean, how many times has he DFA'd him and reacquired him? Who do you think is going to get that last spot?
It makes the most sense to give it to Hudson for the long. I mean, short and long term, you don't really know when Minter's going to be back, and the only other lefty you have is Rayleigh. So I mean, Lovelady's a lefty too, but he's a DFA guy. He's a guy you can even have in AAA. You're not really like, oh, I need to have Lovelady in my
Right,
bullpen.
right.
If Hudson can get it going, he's had a full season when he was really good. It wasn't that recent. It was like 2, 3 years ago, but He's proven he can be a legitimate bullpen arm, and we need legitimate lefties in the bullpen. So he's definitely the guy I'd take a chance on. And Craig Kimbrell's 40 years old. Maybe he'd be a good guy in that spot. Maybe he's got a little juice left in him, but for what, maybe a week or two, and then he starts getting lit up again.
It's going to be interesting to see what how they go, and that leads me to my next question. Um, do you trust, because this might go into that thought process, do you trust Devin Williams? I know people talk about, oh, well, he's been better than Edwin Diaz if you don't count last year. Well, I count last year. He was pitching for the Yankees and he lost the closer's role twice. Now, again, did he pitch better for the rest of the year? Yes, he did. But he wasn't a high leverage reliever. He wasn't a closer. So for me, am I worried about it? I'm a little concerned, but what about you? What do you where are you with Devin Williams as the Mets closer right now?
I mean, I've always liked Devin Williams. I've always thought he's a really good player. And his down year, his bad year is like that's most guys like that's like an average year for them. That's like an average bullpen year for them. So like yeah, he was shaky. He lost his closer role a few times, but he also got thrown into a job and traded from a team that he thought he was like he got thrown out of that role. He got sent. That's the second or third time the Brewers have traded their best player and not paid him. So when you get thrown into from going from pitching in Milwaukee to pitching in New York, yeah, it's an adjustment. Now he's going from the Yankees to the Mets. He's already looks sharper in spring. He's added some new pitches. I think he's gonna bounce back. I like the stuff he's got. I think Pete got that home run. He got a little rattled, but sadly, Pete Alonso's old news in New York. And for the future, I like Devin Williams locking up there, especially when you had a guy like Luke Weaver behind you.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. Like Luke Weaver, people don't realize Luke Weaver was pitching at an elite level before he got hurt last year, and then he didn't pitch as well when he came back because he rushed his way back. And again, like if you factor those things in, I don't look at his second half, Luke Weaver, as him struggling as much as him just rushing back and not having his mechanics right. To me, I agree with you. Devin Williams has looked good this spring. He has. Um, I sense that he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I like the Luke Weaver signing too. I think that gives them a couple of high leverage arms. But the only thing is that they don't go with the other lefty. They could go with Kimbrel because that gives them like a 7-8-9. Kimbrel, Weaver, Williams. It's like having three closers. Luke Weaver's been a closer too, so they might want to go that way. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, there's a week left. I think they have to make a decision on Kimbrel by Saturday, or Saturday or Sunday or whatever. They have to make a decision because I believe he has an opt out. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, so we brought up Alonso. You spoke about how he's not here anymore. It's a sad story. Where do you feel? Like, what is your biggest concern about the Mets offense right
It's got to be just the consistency within the lineup because everybody's is making their, oh, this is my lineup, this is my lineup, this is my lineup. And if like there are teams that works where you have like a different lineup every night, but like you have the same core of guys in the same spot, but then like a little switch around here and there.
now? Right.
And sometimes that works, but the best lineups in baseball usually stay very similar, especially between 1 and 7. So if they can't find a consistency between who's playing first, who's playing right, who's playing third, like obviously Bichette's going to be playing there, but let's say he looks horrific in the first week in the field. Maybe they want to like just DH him and then they throw in if Vientos makes the team or Mauricio makes the team that he's just fielding at third. And then that just kind of, you really don't know who's going to look good and who's going to not look good to start the year. And I just hope Mendoza can find, he's never found consistency in the lineup last year. Everybody was all over the place between Beatty, Vientos, and even the outfield. You can never find a consistency between that third and fourth guy. If we have that again this year, it's just like, what do we even do? Why do we even make all these moves for if we're gonna have even more fluctuation, even
Right.
more question marks in that lineup?
Well, some people would call it flexibility, but I agree with you. You know, and one of the complaints last year that we heard or we read about was that a lot of the players or the players that were involved with so many infielders all playing the same position, they felt that that Mendoza didn't do a great job of communicating to the players, when they would be playing, what the thought process was. Players like to know when they're going to be playing. They don't want to find out, when they go to they don't want to find out when they go to the clubhouse that day, and see whether or not their name is in the lineup. They want to know, oh, there's a lefty going tomorrow. I'm probably going to play tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And that leads me to my next, well, actually, two questions. Um, do you think that Vientos makes the team? And do you think that Benj will be the starting right fielder on opening day?
Vientos is weird because he has no options left. So like, what are you gonna do? Cut him? Like or so, like, and he's not gonna go through waivers. There's no way a team doesn't pick him up. And with Mauricio, he looks better, and I'd rather have Mauricio on the roster, but he has an option, so you can send him down. I'd rather even like a guy like Talkman, he might not be able to make the team just because of who like you're probably gonna have four guys on the bench, and then one of those bullpen guys between those three, like the other two probably aren't gonna make the team.
Right,
There's only so many, especially if they go with six starters, there's only so many spots on this
right,
team.
right,
I think Benj needs to make the team. Benj has looked great all spring. The one thing that I've been reiterating all this whole spring is that if they do what they did with Vientos and Beatty, and they're like, yeah, we'll bring you up, but then like you're not really ready, so we're gonna send you down in 2 weeks. Like you just have to bring him up, and you just have to let him rip because he shows he's had the talent, he shows he got all the tools, and you put him next to Soto and even Luis Robert, maybe that could be the outfield of the future. If Robert can click and you get two young guns picking up from Soto, maybe Stearns really had something going and he's really like that's a whole thing with this team. It's like so many things look like they could click and so many things look like they could be good, but it's so many like what ifs, what ifs, what ifs.
right. No, I agree. I agree. And, as far as Vientos is concerned, the way I look at it is, you hate to give up on a guy like that. But as you said, he's got no options left. I think he's like 1 for 29 this spring, including the World Baseball Classic. He really is. He's a hack at third. Really haven't seen him enough at first base to even have like an opinion. And you're going to take at bats away from Beatty at first base. I mean, Vientos right now he's a DH, but he's not even the best right-handed hitter on the team. But again, like is Vientos? I mean, Vientos had a terrible year last year, and he still had pretty good numbers. So, I personally, I looking at what Carlos Mendoza said the other day about telling Vientos that he's not trying to make the team, that he's on the team. That tells me that, unless they're like completely lying to him and lying to the press, that Vientos is making this team. So if Vientos is making the team, he's probably going to be a platoon DH with Beatty or whoever, Um, he might maybe get some third base, which I really hope he doesn't, because he's terrible, and maybe some first base. But to me, if Mark Vientos doesn't hit, he has no value. So, they may have to do what you said. I mean, he's got like I think 4 years of control. left as a before arbitration. So, they may want to wait till the last minute or even during the season before they make a decision. So I think he's making the team. I'm not so sure about bench, only because if they could get another year of control with bench. Not that that matters with this owner, but David Stearns might be like, well, we'll let Taukman play or Beatty play for the first month of the season and see how that goes. But I think when you tell a kid, that he has a chance to get a job and he has a great spring and he earns a job, he's hitting like 400. He's shown some power. He's played a very good right field. He's looked really good out in right field. So I agree with you. Tough to whether or not, tough to make a call on Vientos. And I agree with you that Ben should be the right fielder on opening day.
I think I didn't really say if Vientos should. I never really answer your question. I just said that he had no out. But I think he will make the team just based on
Uh-huh.
he did have a good second half last year, and as bad, I don't think teams take a bad spring into account as much as we do.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't. Spring training means nothing.
But even then, even the way we're talking about him now, the way he finished last year, no one was really pissing on him. It was like, oh, he had a really bad first half, but
Right. And then he got hurt.
Everybody's so down on him now because of how he's looked in this past month, which is it'll mean nothing if he comes out in the first week and he comes in at someone gets banged up and he has to DH in the first series. He hits 2 home runs. Nobody's talking about that.
No, no, you're right. And I think that's going to be the key, I think, for this team. When you look at all the different changes that because really this is the first time you and I are talking about the Mets on the podcast since, a while. So, really, we haven't really, as a team, the two of us ever haven't really talked about all these different moves. And, consistency and a good start, I think, are keys for the Mets. Because if, I hate to say it, if Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso get off to good starts offensively, and the Mets don't, if the Mets struggle to start the season, it's the pressure is just only going to get worse. It's going to be relentless. So I think it's really important. I mean, do you think it's important for the Mets to get off to a good start?
And it's always important to get off to a good start. But I mean, the year that their best year in the past 5 years, they started horrendous
Right,
and they won the NLCS. So it's with the Mets, you really never know what you're gonna get until the last 30, 40 games. Then you really have an idea of, oh, is this team pushing for the playoffs? Is this team pushing for the division? Or are we gonna win 75 games? We really haven't had a year in a while where we were really just bad. Even last year, it came down to the last few days of us not making the playoffs.
right.
And even that was a completely bad job. You lost to the Marlins.
Not the first time. Not the first time that a bad Marlins team ruins the Mets season. It's happened before.
But I mean, to be honest, their division isn't as strong as it has been in the past few years.
I agree.
Like the Braves will be better, but the Phillies will be worse. The Marlins are the Marlins. They'll probably win 70, 80 games, but they're not going to really do any damage. And the Nationals will be horrendous. They might not even win 50 games.
Right. I expect them to be a little bit better. I mean, they have talent. They have young talent. I don't think they have any pitching, but they have
Yeah,
they have
exactly.
young. They have let's put it this way: the Mets. When people talk about the Mets, and the strength of schedule, and well, September they're playing under 500. That means nothing when you're
No.
talking about the Mets because the Mets will beat they'll beat great teams and then they'll lose to terrible teams. The Mets are one of those teams that just you cannot take anything for granted, like you said. I mean, we even talked about it. It's like last year, they were the best team in baseball in June, and then they fell off a cliff. And really, it was all about injuries, but it was all about how bad the pitching was. I expect the pitching led by Peralta, obviously to be much better this year. Um, and it's almost, I'm a little worried about McLean, just because of this, the high profile of the WBC. But that's just, me being me.
Boo, boo.
Yeah, I know. I'm just worried
Oh,
about it.
the kid's actually pitching in a game that matters.
I know, I know, I know. But uh, when you think about the staff as opposed to last year, you know, knock on wood, there's been no injuries this spring with the pitching, outside of the vertigo that McLean experienced a couple of weeks ago. You have Peralta, you have McLean, you've got Hudson, you've got Senga. Who am I missing? Who's the other pitcher? Who's
What
the
are
other
you saying?
starter?
Starters? Starters, you
I'm
got
missing a
Peralta,
starter. I said
Clay
Holmes.
Holmes.
John Schilling over there is
Nah, I think you did say
chiming
Clay
in.
Holmes.
Did I say Clay?
You didn't say Clay Holmes, and you didn't say Peterson.
Oh, Peterson is the guy I didn't say. So it's Peralta, McLean, Holmes, Senga, Peterson. That's a damn good staff. I don't know if that's going to be the 1 through 5. We know Peralta starting opening day. We know. I don't know if we're sure that McLean's going to pitch the second game. Personally, I would think that it would be smarter for them to put McLean in the 3 or the 4 hole, because they're not going to let him throw 180 innings this year. They're not going to let that. They're
Mhm.
not going to let that happen. I mean, his first year in the majors, his first full season. So he'd be probably better off being in the 4 or the 5 hole.
I'll probably be Senga. Senga's more experienced and he's actually healthy. He looked great in his
Yes.
last spring
Yeah,
start.
he really did. He really did. And mentally, he looks better. He doesn't look tentative. He looks like he wants to.
So he had a leg injury, and it was a stupid leg injury. So it's not like he blew his leg in
Right.
three different places where he couldn't pitch anymore. It was a tweak to the calf to the point where oh, I'm good enough where I feel like I can pitch, but I really can't because I was just off my legs for like a month. And then he kept trying to get it back, and his fastball was like 93, 94, and he was getting teed off.
Oh,
Now he's throwing.
the guy we didn't talk about is Mania, Sean
Yeah,
Mania.
and yeah, again, well, he was different. He when you throw the way he does, his elbow is just not the same anymore.
Right.
I remember people being very iffy and questionable about that contract that they gave him because of that, because of the way he throws. And I'm pretty sure he got a little banged up during that year, even though he was great.
Right.
And then the next year, it's almost right away. And he hasn't been the same since.
But we named 6. What did we name 6
Yeah,
pitchers?
he would be the sixth start. He would be the
Okay.
sixth starter.
All right.
But
I mean, look, I like that pitching staff better than Frankie Montas. That was one of those things. That was one of those signings. Anybody who says they questioned the Mania signing last year, everybody wanted Mania back. Any Met fan that
it
would,
was just the money. It was the money that was
yeah. So what?
questionable.
It's Steve Cohen. Who cares? It's like Steve Cohen's money. I don't care how much he costs, but I wanted him back. I didn't go crazy about the money because I wanted a guy back. But you can't compare, signing him and then signing Frankie Montas.
Not even
Nobody liked
close.
that. I don't think anybody liked that move, except maybe David Stearns.
And well, he's never been he had been good in 5, 6 years, and he was getting hurt every single year before that.
Yeah,
Manaea just had a great year and was great in the playoffs
right, right. And the thing
for
is,
the Mets.
again, and when I question Frankie Montas is because A, he's never been durable, and B, he's never really been good. So I still don't understand why it was even done when you had Severino in house and he would have cost the same amount of money.
And they didn't bring him that. They already have such a different rotation from last year and the year before. You've
Yep.
lost Severino, you've lost Canning, you've lost Montas, and even McGill he hasn't pitched in a while.
So he's hurt. He's hurt.
Yeah,
So well,
who
look,
knows when he'll be back.
I'm very cautiously optimistic. I do. I did 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I thought the Braves were going to be better too. But with all the injuries to their pitching staff, getting back Chris Sale's great, but all their other guys are hurt, and they just lost Profar again, for the season. What a giant waste of money that was. So I do think the Braves will be better,
Yeah, I
but
mean they'll have healthy Acuna, like getting him back healthy.
sure, yeah, I mean that
That's
helps.
just
That helps, but again, I mean the Mets. This is the way I look at it. I think the Mets are good enough, should be good enough to win this division. Do you think that that's a realistic goal?
yeah. It's all in the pitching again.
Yep,
Their pitching got so beat up and so hurt last year between it wasn't even just the starters or the bullpen, it was both.
yep,
They got gutted.
yep. It got gutted, and when you think about all the one run losses, I think they had like 28 one-run losses. They had zero comebacks, 0-70, after the eighth inning or the seventh inning or whatever it was. Look, those numbers, if those numbers don't get better, if people say, well, they can't be that bad. Well, I mean, look, anything can happen, right? It's the Mets. Anything can happen. But just those numbers alone, when you think about all that, when you think about all those things that went wrong last year and they still won 83 games, even if you're a I'm sure the math people could come up with some algorithm to explain whatever. But I just look at the simple math of it as they were bad in almost every way last year, with the exception of Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo. Those are the only two guys in the
The
lineup. That's
Soto in the
why,
second half.
and that's the thing. But that's why I lost my mind last year. Uh, when they traded Nimmo and let Alonso go, because they were their two best players with runners in scoring position. So
Mhm.
who's gonna fill those holes? I don't feel as bad about it now because adding Bichette, Polanco's a clutch hitter, but I am worried about Simeon. I am worried about whether or not he's going to be productive enough offensively. Let's hope Benj, continues to be a solid contact type of hitter. And hopefully Beatty continues to grow and continues to be the kind of hitter I've always thought he could be. So to me, you know, I, look, somebody's got to step up and give Soto, protection. Do you think it's going to be Bichette? Do you have like confidence that Bichette's going to be that kind of guy?
Well, you need Bichette in front of him because Bichette's just such a great contact hitter and he gets on so much. But
I don't think that's the
you could
plan,
even
though.
maybe yeah, I guess you could put him behind him just because Soto gets on even more. But like even then, like the way you're talking about, like they really don't have any like with Alonso and Soto, you had two guys like just monsters in the lineup. Two guys you did not want to pitch to. Now, like Bichette, you don't like want to pitch to, but you're not like he's not hitting 35 home runs, 40 home runs next to Soto. They don't really have a guy like the guy everyone's like really thinking about and not relying on, but like hoping is that guy is Luis Robert, who's done it once, but can he find that the one thing that separated him between the past 2 years and his All-Star year is the vision. His strikeout rate was way up the past 2 years. And if he though that's his thing. He's a great eye, he's a great vision hitter. If he can pick up on a few things from Soto, he can tap into that power. And if he can be that right-handed hitter in the middle of that lineup, especially from the power side of it, that's going to be a huge part of the Mets lineup. Maybe.
He's got to stay healthy. That's his
Yeah.
problem. He can't stay healthy. So we'll see. Maybe he'll be motivated, to be healthy, playing in a pennant race, which he hasn't done in a while. Playing in that ridiculous.
Has he ever played in a pennant
I don't
race?
think so. I don't think he has. So there you go. So all right. So we're cautiously optimistic, and we'll have one more. What is it? One more day. When is opening day? The 26th.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
about right.
So we'll actually have an opening day preview next week. We'll do some Mets. We'll do some Yankees. A little bit more baseball. We'll talk about the WBC if they win. If they don't, we don't care.
Yeah,
All right, buddy. Great
sounds
show.
good.
Talk
Yeah.
to you later. Happy St. Patrick's Day, kid. I'll see you later.
See you later.